their knowledge of what is possible is limited to the experience they have through the chat window. Shift is moving from very basic use cases of AI, which could be, hey, help me to rewrite an email, right? To thinking in workflows. When they start telling us about stuff that we hadn't talked about, it's probably a skill issue on the individual versus a AI issue.
When you start working one-on-one with a senior executive on AI, what's the first things that you notice?
I think that there is a lack of insight into what AI is actually capable of. With some of the core tools that we're all familiar with, whether that be AI tools, Anthropic tools, Google tools, you could actually do a lot more than what many experienced professionals are aware of. When you talk to a lot of professionals, it's, use AI, I know how to use AI. And the reality is that their knowledge of what is possible is limited to the experience they have through the chat window of ChatGPT or of Claude or of Gemini. And the reality is the functionality of these platforms and what LLMs allow us to do goes far beyond that, right? When you pair those with domain specific applications or features, it allows us to accomplish real work product at a level that really blows people's minds. And so sometimes I'll sit next to an executive and say, hey, if you just do this, here's the output you can get.
For example, what do executives think the one-on-one sessions are going to look like before they start, and how does that compare to what actually happened?
I think because people have a limited perspective on what AI is capable of, everything revolves around the conversation about what chat can do, what I can do inside of ChatGPT or Claude. That's a good starting point. But when we take the time, or I should say, understand their actual workflow, and then based on the workflow, you design processes, solutions that solve a specific problem, then it becomes a game changer. Here's an example. You think about a scenario where someone in marketing says, hey, I would like my product to appear in a photo with me. You could upload a photo in ChatGPT and have it give you back an image, but there are all these different alterations that it would make. In a lot of cases, it did the job, but it's not something I would actually publish. That's a big deal because people want to use AI in a way that what they create is production ready. If you extend that capability to pairing ChatGPT with other tools, right? You guys talked about using Pomeli. Now you're creating images with the individual inside of the image, and it just looks super real. This was actually a photo taken by a photographer of me with my product, and that becomes a game changer for people because it's things that extend beyond a simple chat. It goes into different applications and different features that allow us to accomplish the actual objective and not just showing a parlor trick.
What does an executive who is getting a lot out of the program look like versus one who isn't?
So the key shift is moving from very basic use cases of AI, which could be, hey, help me to rewrite an email, right? To thinking in workflows. So how do we understand what our workflow is? And then that professional can start to think about all of the tools they've been exposed to, the tools that they've researched, and really start to consider, how do I recreate this workflow with AI in mind? And then get to a great, I should say, they're able to design a process or a workflow that produces a result that is exponentially better, right? So better from the perspective that they can not only get it done faster, right? AI has that benefit of efficiency, but the quality of the work is equal or better to what they would have done if they would have just completed the workflow themselves. Coming back to your question, what's the difference between someone who has a lot of success versus someone who doesn't? You graduate from thinking about AI as this point solution. I'm going to fix this one little thing and I'm going to put it in a chat GPT and it'll give me an answer back. It's understanding the workflow and how you redesign the workflow and how AI creates a ton more value in the entire workflow, not just writing an email.
For example, what's the moment where you see the shift happen?
When they start telling us about stuff that we hadn't talked about. Here's the crazy thing that happens, right? There's almost like this dopamine kick that professionals get when they realize, hey, I can use AI to do something that I didn't even think was possible. It's like a kid getting a new toy on Christmas and all they want to do is play with it all day, right? It's the same thing because we sit, how much time do we spend working? We've had our traditional processes of accomplishing things, right? And so when you realize, oh, I can just use AI to do this, they start to use their imagination a lot more. And you can see when you're working with them one-on-one, their eyes literally browning up and they're so excited about telling you this new thing that they were able to do. I think that moment is like the click behind the eyes when they get it and then they can start to use it. And then they're like incredibly excited to tell you about what they've been able to do.
And finally, if a senior executive is watching this and they tried AI, but it hasn't stuck, what would you say to them?
If someone's working with AI and it hasn't produced the value that they expected, they need to connect with someone who has been able to do it, because then it's probably a skill issue versus a AI issue. Unless we're talking about something that's going to hammer nails for you. But if we're talking about knowledge work, it used to be there was this idea that very basic tasks, that's what AI is going to automate. People think that I spent 10 years doing this particular thing, developing a skill for this particular thing that is knowledge work. AI is not going to be able to do that. And when they make their first attempt to have AI do it, they're disappointed. Oh, it doesn't look like I would do. That is a user issue. That is not a AI issue. And I don't mean that AI is going to replace what they can do, but that person, because of the knowledge and the experience and the judgment that they've developed, they have the ability to get the AI to work for them, with them, to actually produce on the level that they would be able to produce. And not perfectly all the time, but there's a lot more in terms of capabilities that it is able to accomplish than what that person would give credit for in their initial pursuit of learning.